How y'all doing? Good. We're really excited about being here. My name's Frank, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about my story and sometimes what I call my donkey mission. You know, a donkey mission is things that we go through in life and we don't really realize why that particular thing exists until we learn from it, you know. I believe there's a lesson in life for every corner that we turn. Let me just give you an idea of who I am, okay? I'm going to work off of some notes because I don't want to leave out any of the good nuggets. I've been serving God since I was about 13 years old. And yeah, that's a long time ago, back in 1969. For the young guys, that's AC, not BC, okay? And yeah, I know. And so it's 54 years now of an in and out relationship with God. And but that was okay, because you know the best part was he threw a party every time I came back to him, and that's the kind of father that he is. And me and God have this relationship where he promised never to leave me or forsake me, and that just excites me because I never made that promise to him. But I live a life where I know that when I go through times and struggles, or sometimes I deflect and go a different direction, he's always there waiting for me when I get back. And I know that I could always go home to him. And I don't mean heaven yet, I'm not ready for that, but I can always come back to him as being my Savior. He led me through a lot of things, and I've been an entrepreneur my whole life. If I wanted to do it, I did it. I had a painting company, a contracting company, a grocery store, I had a theater. Whatever I wanted to do, I just did. I just had that excitement in life. And I know a lot of you probably share that zeal that, you know, there's things that you want to do, goals you want to accomplish. So I did that, you know, early on. I was 22 years old, wiring Channel 13 news studio, a new studio we built. And the guy, the carpenter who was building the sets asked me one day, "What do you want to do in life?" I said, "I don't know." He says, "Oh, there's something you want to do." And I said, "Yeah, I want to open a theater." He says, "You got experience?" I said, "None." He says, "Well, go for it." I said, "I don't know how." He says, "Figure it out." And for about 2 or 3 months, every time I saw him, he'd say, "Did you start that theater yet?" And I just always had a love for passion and music. And I said, "No." And then one day he asked me, and I said, as a matter of fact, I did. And within 1 month, I had 150 students, and we were traveling and televised, and I didn't know what I was doing. I just stepped into it because, you know, I knew that if someone else could do it, I could do it too. And there's things that you might be facing or wanting to do that you're just not sure about. Well, you know what? You haven't failed unless you don't try it. So he always led me through all these things. I learned early that, you know, if I go for it, the worst that can happen is it doesn't work out the way I always want it to. Are you looking at my notes? No. You're making me nervous looking at my notes. So. Move over. No, just kidding. So when I had my own store, you know, I wanted a dozen of them. Can you imagine wanting a dozen grocery stores? It was a small store, but it was a nice store. First year I did $450,000. Second year we did, I had a partner. We did $850,000 or 30, so whatever it was. Third year we were on for $1.5 million. One thing I learned from that is we have to be careful what we ask for, because sometimes we get it. And man, I tell you what, you think it's going to be all golden and oh, this is it, this is my dream, until you live it and you have the reality of it. It was my dream. I wanted to leave a bunch of these to my kids. And knowing I was an entrepreneur and I, you know, have a super high sales aptitude, top 2% of the country, I could do anything I put my mind to. I sold millions of dollars worth of construction. I can certainly sell groceries, you know? And so I got what I asked for. It was 16 hours a day. It was every holiday. It was morning and night. And I kept thinking, wow, is this good? I'm not sure anymore. One day my wife, I started losing connection with my wife, my children. I gave up my ministry because this was so consuming. I had a vibrant children and youth ministry. And, you know, I was just nailing it on the East Coast with youth work. And all of a sudden, my priorities changed because I was dreaming of something that really wasn't for me, but I asked for it and I got it. And one day my wife pulls up to the store because my son Brandon, he was like 11, he wanted to see me. So she comes in the store and I go out, I see her, I say, hey, where's Brandon? Oh, he's in the car. I remember walking out to my car and there's my son sitting in the passenger side. And he's got this blank stare on his face. And I looked in his eyes, he has really dark brown eyes. And he was always a jubilant kid. He could read a newspaper when he was 2 years old. All right? He's a very renowned journalist now. You know, he's done well in his life, but he was so full of energy. He loved tap dancing. He's danced with some of the most famous dancers in the world. And he would wake up in the morning and I'd be in bed and I'd hear, I'm like, are you kidding me? You know, and that was his life, right? And some of you know my son. But, you know, this day he was different. I went out to the car and I looked at him and I'm like, hey, bud, what you doing? He shook and said, nothing. And right away my spirit spoke to me and said, you got what you asked for. And I was like, wow. I disconnected from him. He missed Dad. My priorities were selfish. I wanted to give my kids 12 stores. My kids didn't want nothing to do with them. Sometimes we got to really think it through. Sometimes we really got to get on our knees and say, God, you know, I know that you promised me the desires of my heart, but what is your will for my life? And I decided then and there that something's got to change. I got to go back to the drawing board. So I moved on. I told my partner, hey, I'm out of here. And I left the store. A month later, he had a realization. He closed the store down. He's like, this is not life, you know? And so each time I've done an endeavor, I've gotten a little smarter, more in touch with myself. And I figured out the why. Why do I seek the things I seek in life? Is it for prestige, fame, honor, ego, laziness? Some guys aren't made to work at an office job 9 to 5 or so for somebody. I like my own style, I like my own hours, things like that. It's bred in me, and that's why I'm an entrepreneur. So how many times do we do something for the wrong reason? Because we don't know where our passion is. If we find our passion, we find our purpose. If we find our purpose, then we find the why. We find our why. Why am I here? Here's why I'm here. Here's what I'm supposed to do. In ministry, I worked with thousands of kids for years. I was homeless at Christmas 2 years in a row when I was 11 and 12. It was part of my donkey missions. 11 and 12 homeless, no presents, no decorations, no Christmas. I owned one pair of pants. Some of you might look and say, oh, that poor guy, so sad. I don't look at it that way. That situation drove me to adopting 300 kids a year for Christmas. Making Christmas by giving them a contractor trash bag full of toys and presents. That motivated me. I could look at it as woe is me, but I took what the devil meant for bad and I turned it to good because God allowed me. Being 12 and 13 and homeless was impacting at the time. But we can't look back at that. We can't dwell on that. Those things shape me. And I appreciate those things. Up to a few years of age, or up to a few years ago, after I adopted the kids, for all that, probably about 15, 20 years I did that. Nathan, as a matter of fact, grew up in my ministry, and he became my right-hand helper. He hated it sometimes, too. It was a lot of work. Right up to Christmas Eve, you know, we'd be Santa Claus, you know. But it was the joy after where I felt such a peace and I could hear God say, well done. And it was more about making something happen for somebody else than myself. It gave me a passion for people, all types, from all walks of life. And when you find your passion and develop your purpose and know your why, man, life opens up. We want to get from A to B in life, and yet there's all these roadblocks and stuff. If you're on the highway and there's an accident and there's a traffic jam, you can't go where you're going because there's wreckage. Sometimes we have to get rid of that wreckage in life or figure out how to go around it so we can get moving and not be stuck in one place. How many times do we say, I'm going to do this? My dear friend Mike, buried him a few years ago. He came to me when he was like 48. He said, hey, man. I said, hey, I haven't seen you, man. What's going on? He says, you got to get me, you got to help me get ready to die. I'm like, what? He says, yeah, they haven't given me much time. We got to talking that day, and he pulled out 50 business cards. He said, you know, I never did what I really wanted to do. I said, what are those cards? He says, those are all the jobs I had in my life. I said, Mike, you had one passion. You wanted to be a school teacher, and you never went for it. Why? I don't know. And you always say to me, hey, don't talk to me about God. I'm not the God type, okay? But I remember being at hospice with him and him grabbing my hand and saying, okay, I think I'm ready. And praying the prayer with him of salvation. And man, when he got done, we just sobbed and held each other. That night he passed on. And that was the one goal that I had wanted him to experience in life before he went home. But he always had these roadblocks. He didn't realize that, you know what? You can be what you want to be. You can do what you want to do. Sometimes it takes help. And that's what I do. I help others find what they seek, to help them set their goals, to achieve what they otherwise couldn't, maybe without me. I thrive seeing people succeed, start their businesses or build on the ones they have. I love helping people clean out the wreckage, to unclog the highway to their success. That's what I'm about. That's my passion and my purpose and my why. It's based on a lot of experiences. You haven't even heard my testimony. You're going to hear testimony in a few minutes. It's going to knock your socks off. But that's not even part of my testimony. That's some of the things I went through, but it shaped me and molded me. And we all have that in life. What shapes you? What motivates you? What do you desire? And that's why I founded Target Life Group, to extend myself into the lives of other people that might find their why, that might have some help in improving life skills and happiness and business and health and careers, whatever it might be. It's my purpose, my passion, and my why, and my ministry. Thanks for listening.
Well, let me just say, I was super excited for the last couple weeks to be at to this point. And then yesterday came in and my stomach was killing me. And then I realized that I actually went to the gym and worked on abs. And I was like, oh, that's why it's killing me. But Tyler Banks, what he neglected to say is when we first met, I was probably like 19 years old. So I don't know why he even listened to a teenager at that point about like where to invest and not to invest. But I will say I have been in business a very long time myself. And a lot of you are probably like, oh, this kid's like 20-something. I'm in my 30s now. So I too have been an entrepreneur for most of my life. I sold candy bars when I was like 5 years old. But honestly, I do have a lot to share with you all today. I have like ADHD, so sometimes I'll like get distracted by you all eat. And I think the best thing that they put on the menu today was those barbecue ribs. So hopefully you smashed one of them already, because otherwise, if you're still eating them, I'm going to stare at you like crazy as you pick the barbecue off your cheeks. But I do have some notes as well, and I do want to make sure that you all do feel like the time that you spend here is well spent, right? You know, you're getting a little bit of a takeaway to take home, but we placed a couple of items at your table. If you're distracted like me and want to like read that and not listen to me, that's fine too. Or I can make eye contact with you and it not be weird. But we also have complimentary passes. See, look, already that eye contact, I'm loving it. But we also do have complimentary passes for you, so that if you do feel like inclined after today, you're like, oh, these guys might sound like they know what they're talking about, or you know what, I'm at a stage in my career or my life where the trajectory has to kind of pivot a little bit, and this is what I want to do, or this is what I want to expand on, then you can reach out to us. But I got to give it to Tyler and the team, because we had a planned session here, a workshop. We call it Not Another Motivational Workshop, because how many times you go to these events and you're like, oh my gosh, like I have to actually sit here and listen to these guys speak all this time. And you're like, that's why we call it Not Another Motivational Workshop, because I didn't want it to be like that. We were going to have a planned time to share with you, where we were going to have some hula hoops, get you guys moving around, doing a couple little things, but that might come another day. But today, I'm going to share a little bit about my life. And this was like strung on to me like about a week ago. And so, sometimes you have a plan of action, but sometimes, as you heard in Frank's story and also Tyler's story, is that plans sometimes change, right? We can have this ideal, thought out plan. Hey, I'm going to go do this, I'm going to go to school, or I'm not going to go to school, I'm going to become a real estate agent and do real estate school and become an investor, or I'm going to have my properties, whatever it may be like for you. I just want to encourage you that sometimes you just have to kind of go with the flow and the plan that you had set up in front of you. God, for me, God has other plans, right? So I will say, when I get into my story, this is the first time that I really shared it in a public setting like this. I've shared bits and pieces, but now I'm sharing a whole other side that I really believe, after sharing it with a few people, that it does help people, right? So that healing is involved. And I think a lot of times why we're prevented from sharing a little bit more of ourselves, we start feeling like Adam and Eve in the garden. We start feeling naked and exposed, and it's a little uncomfortable, right? Because there's shame, there's guilt involved, and also you kind of feel like, I don't want people knowing all my business, right? But what I will say is when people do sometimes know about your business, there's like a care, there's a support system that's created from that, and a healing process takes place, within your inner self. And so with sharing with some of myself to a few select people, I've realized that there's a lot more people, especially young men and older men, that have had struggles, challenges. And sometimes you felt, maybe defeat at some times, and maybe why we have such a drive now is because, I'm not going to let that keep me down. And that was my attitude. All the things that had happened to me in my past, I didn't want people to feel sorry for me. I didn't want people to feel like I wasn't going to be a success, because I wanted to be a success. So bear with me. Everybody's with me, right? Going back to the candy bars. How many of you have ever been raised by or were raised by a single mom? Any single parent households? Gosh, God bless our single moms, right? So I was raised by a single mom. And my parents decided not to watch MTV's Teen Mom, because if I watched Teen Mom, I would have said, no way am I going to have kids this young. And now I'm in my 30s and I have no kids, and no kids in sight. But my parents decided to get together at 13 and 15 and then have me at 14 and 16. And from there, I was like, man, I'm already, how you start on the Monopoly board, you start at go? Well, I felt I was like starting at like way back pieces. Like, man, I already have a disability right here, and I'm starting from like -3. And so I was being raised by teenage parents. And it wasn't really long, because how well can parents really raise a kid? And no discrediting parents that have done it at such a young age, but I'm like, my mom was probably just playing with Barbies the year prior, like what's going on here? But I seen a lot growing up, and by the time I was 3 and 4 years old, I seen a different side of my parents, and I didn't like it. It was uncomfortable, and it was abusive. And my father, I actually watched him abuse my mom physically. And there was a lot of times where, as a kid, even as an adult, anytime you see something like that, that can be a traumatic experience. But at such a young age, I remember going into the room and watching her get beat, and standing in between them at periods of times and cry to ask for it to stop. And so from that point on, had a brother when I was around 4 years old, and eventually my father went to prison. And again, another move back 3 spaces, right, on the game board. Because at that point, now you're being raised by a single family parent household. And I never knew when I would see my father again, right, because he went to prison for a variety of things. And so we needed to move. So I was being raised in my grandmother's household, who was also a single mother. Generational curses here. But yeah, was not fun. I did not have much of a childhood. It was not, quote unquote, normal for me. And I felt like I just wanted to be normal, whatever that normal was like, right? And so that normalcy kind of like escaped me, because at that point, again, my father's now gone, and my mom is really busy, right? She's trying to become her own person and raise kids. And so with that, she had to do some things that were a little unorthodox. And part of that was selling drugs and stripping. So by the time she was 18 years old, she got into a new world. And I'm actually, someone in this room actually shares that story a lot too. And so it's just, man, gosh, look how relatable the story is. No, already, no. But she had to do what she had to do to make ends meet, right? And so I remember that our relationship was more like a brother-sister rather than a child and parent-like. And so I think I was being raised by someone who was a little emotionally unavailable for me. Because as a kid, we need all of like the normal things where, you know, your mom comes and gives you a hug, kiss, and, you know, nurturing. But it was really hard when she was trying to nurture and feed herself and her lifestyle. And so that was a challenge. It kind of messed with you because it kind of like thwarted the ideas of what normalcy was and what was acceptable, and also like, hey, well, this is not something that people normally do to make money, but guess what? It makes money and puts food on the table for us. And so with that, you know, I had to pretty much take care of my brother while both my mom and my grandmother worked extensive hours. And so in that time, you know, I spent a lot of time alone. And so when kids are alone, you know, things kind of don't go well. And so while my mom was working nights, and, you know, I'd come home from school, help with the sibling, and then later another sibling. As I aged, between the years of 5 and 11, that's when I lived with my grandmother, and she had a boyfriend at the time. And so her boyfriend had 2 sons. And so my grandmother always wants to have and picture this normalcy of like what one big happy family is like. We always try to grasp kind of like what we can't have. And so she's trying to create her idea of a family or a household. And so with that, I had experienced and became a victim of sexual abuse. And so men do not really talk about this topic very often. And there's a lot of reasons why. And so, especially at such a young age, I didn't really have a choice or say in what I could do with my body or not with my body. And when you're being told that, hey, you better not say anything or you'll get in trouble. And so these 2 boys that were about 5 to 8 years older than I was, starting at the age of 5 or 6, so I was probably in kindergarten or 1st grade. I don't remember how it started. That's what trauma does to you. You don't know how things start. You just try to block and constantly block to, again, create that normalcy in your life. And so I had been abused for years, from 5 all the way till I was 11. Not fun, but to me, I thought it was normal. It's just, you know, you got to keep a secret. You just keep going on like nothing ever happened, right? And so I hated going home. You could see why, right? So there was no normalcy there. So I would go to my friends as much as I can, because I knew as soon as I got home, that I was going to do something that I didn't like, something that made me uncomfortable, something that made me feel that shame, that guilt, and that hurt, and a lot of confusion, right? And so church and school became an outlet for me to find safety. My friend at the time, very close friend of mine, her family had been frequent churchgoers. And so I was like, yeah, like I want to make friends, or I want to do something. I want to get the heck out of this house. And so that's actually how I started getting involved with Jesus and children's ministry and enjoying, the fruit of, God's love. And school, I got a lot of attention there. I was a class clown, and I felt like, this is where I'm liked. This is where I get positive reinforcement, that affirmation that I've been looking for that I'm not getting at home. And eventually the abuse stopped. And so I was like very happy about that. So that was around the time that I was 11 or 12, about to go into middle school, that I felt like, okay, I was safe. I was kind of starting a new era, a new time for me. And then eventually at school, something happened. School was no longer my safety net as well. I ended up in the 2000s, there was these things called chat rooms, AOL, and in school, a lot of my friends were going to our school resource officer at the time, and everybody was just talking about like, hey, like we get to go have lunch with the officer, and it's really cool, yada yada yada. And I was like, oh, I want to do that too. So I did that, and then in that time frame, got connected with the school resource officer. Started getting into the chat rooms because people were using the AOL chat, and popped up in a room with him. And he started to tell me about this friend that he had, and I was like, oh, that's so cool. And he started to tell me and convince me that he too loved God, because he knew that I was a Christian, because I always professed, and I was always thankful, and I was always happy to share about the love of Jesus. And eventually, he convinced me and manipulated me into believing that, hey, why don't we develop a sort of relationship, a courtship? And so it became this very unhealthy situation where, he would take me out into car rides, and then, we went out, to lunch, and I just thought it was the coolest thing. But eventually that too turned into what I had already been used to, which was, again, sexual abuse. And I had become a victim again, and I felt like, man, like, is this what life is? Am I constantly going to do this? Is this my fault? But I continued with life. I started to develop anger issues, a lot of frustration, a lot of confusion, once this all had passed too. And how that happened was I actually had been missing from church for a little bit. My friends had mentioned actually to Frank at the time, because he was working in ministry, and he's noticed that I had been missing. And what's funny is we actually talked about what I was going to be talking about today, and there was so much that I didn't remember, so much that I don't recall, and even as now, like, I'm still trying to put the pieces together, because you don't know how things extend from one thing to another. And so I was reminded, like, hey, like, this isn't your fault. What you're doing, is not right, and that person is taking advantage of you. And so private investigators had been hired, or had been hired right up to the point where this all came out, and this had become an issue. And this is like the first time like something like this in my life. I was kind of on the news. Thankfully, my identity was protected, but I felt like, man, like this is a turning point here, where a mark was left on my life, even though I had already experienced all this other traumatic events. And so he eventually gets put away, and I developed, at first, that victim mentality of like, oh man, I put this person away. Oh, he wasn't so bad. This wasn't such a bad thing. I didn't mean for this to go that way. And then I was reminded that other kids had been hurt too, and because me coming forward, other kids were rescued. And so after that, I had got back involved in church, in youth group, and with that, I was still coping with what was going on, but I didn't know at the time, right? So I had developed anger issues, and actually, it was so funny because Frank had like a wrap around him, and I was going to tell you like how much I still punch him. But when I was a kid, I had so much anger issues. I don't even know who that kid was, but he was starting to work with me and having me like build sets at VBS, because that's where I used to go and have fun. And he's going to show you a really cool illusion in a bit that actually like is a very monumental illusion that that took place over 20 years ago that I got to see. And so, but I had all these anger issues, and rightfully so. But the cool thing during that time is like that was when I really had an experience with God and knew that, you know, from the very moment that I was brought into this earth, that there was going to be some challenges, and the devil had it out for me. And maybe you feel that way too in your life. Like you feel like, you know, there's roads, there's obstacles that you're going through, and it's for a reason. It's preventing you from getting to that next step that that is planned out for you. And so during that time, this is where it gets a little weird. You know, there was these two women at this youth retreat that I used to go to every year, which, mind you, I got sick at this retreat every year. I don't care what year it was, like from the time I was like 10 years old and onward, I was just getting sick that same weekend in February. I could just remember being underneath the chairs, needing trash cans because I was just throwing up. But for whatever reason, there was a struggle where I wasn't going to hear the messages that needed to be ingrained and affirmed in me. And then eventually one year I was just brought up to the altar, and there was women that didn't know who I was and prophesied that I'd be, talking, to a multitude of people over my lifetime about sharing the word of Jesus. And so I didn't understand that over the time, but I just knew that there was like a calling for me, and all these little instances were just trying to be prohibitors from what my ultimate goal in life was, or my calling. Through that time, my mom's and my relationship got a little wonky, because at that point, I'm a teenager. I'm tired of babysitting kids. At this point, she's got 3 other kids, and I'm like taking care of them while she's going out to do her business. And I felt it was a little selfish, I'm not going to lie. And I was hurt by it, and I was growing really frustrated. And all these things in my life, she didn't know about the other abuse from when I was a kid, but she knew obviously about the officer because that made the news. People were approaching her. But no one ever asked me how I felt in my family. And I always struggled with that, because I just felt like they were just telling my business, but never really asked me what was going on. And so we had some growing pains and animosity, and my mom, I could remember her calling Frank and said, "Come pick up your son because I'm sick of him, I'm going to kill him." She would chase me around the house, and she's, eventually the smacking didn't hurt, so she was throwing things at me or punching me, because I would just always laugh when she tried to hit me. But unfortunately, we moved one more time, so again, we weren't really settled, that we just were not grounded. And at age 15, my mom was murdered here in Dundalk. So I'm a Dundalk guy, been born and raised here my whole life, and I bought a house here at 24. Really proud of that. I'm really thankful to be a part of this community. But my mom had been murdered by a Latino gang, the MS-13 gang, which is notorious for drugs here in the area, and it's a growing epidemic, unfortunately. But at that time, it was just not a normal thing for people to take out the women, especially single women, in these drug cartels. And so, unfortunately, my mom had gotten really deep into the drug world, and it came back to hurt her. And she was murdered in our house when we were all asleep overnight on September 10th, 2007. And so my whole world really shifted at that point, and it was, again, a struggle. Actually working on some things more recently that I'll get into, but obviously once that happens, that normalcy, again, that I was trying to attain was again being ripped underneath from me. So the only thing that I had left was my mom and my siblings, and we now had it to disband because my mom was now gone. So we got separated. Only me and my one brother got to live with my father, who had just come out of prison just the year prior. And he was a stranger to me, and he was starting to instill some of the toughness that I remember when I was a kid. And everyone in my family has these ideas of what a man should be, and my ideas are a little bit different. And it became a power struggle again, and he got physical with me at the time, and I ran away. At that point, I was just really frustrated at life. I contemplated suicide for a couple of years, just wanting life to be over with, right? Because I was like, man, my whole life, like, this sucks. Is this life? You know, how it's supposed to be? Does it ever get any easier? And so eventually, kind of moving on from a lot of different details, I eventually had left to North Carolina to live with my grandmother who had moved down there, and then brought back up to Maryland into a safe house, which had been a house that I had lived in for years, just to protect me from people within the drug industry, but also from my father at the time, who was, we had an estranged relationship, and I had been emancipated at the time. And so I had been there for a couple years, got to pursue my degree, go into business and marketing. At 16 years old, we actually, Frank and I, he knew that, you know, one of my ultimate goals was to bring my family back together, and I needed to make money. And we started KOT, which represents knocking out temptation. If you look up 1 Corinthians 10:13, you can learn more about that. But it was supposed to be a message of hope and imply this whole idea of murder to ministry, being an encouraging word for kids and youth that, you know, life sometimes has a hard way of dealing, you know, cards at you. But even with the cards that you're given, you can still make ends meet and be prosperous, and there's still a plan for you. There's still hope for you. And so that was a really exciting time. I even got a scholarship. It was like beating the odds. All that great stuff was going on. And then as an adult, you know, I'm going to college, and unfortunately, this is where the entrepreneur, this is where the maybe the investor experience, or you know, real estate agent. One of the things that I had always said, and you can actually see it on my Facebook post, is, you know, as a kid growing up, I had my teachers would always ask me and ask other students, what do you want to be when you grow up? How many of you have ever gotten that, you know, or sometimes we're still asking ourselves, what do I want to be when I grow up? And you're in your 30s or 40s, 50s, and so on. And so I always told myself, I want to be an actor, or I want to be a landlord. I kept saying landlord. I want to be a landlord. And when I really thought about it, I was like, what does that mean? You know, I just always saw the landlord come in and take our money, and then we were broke again. We had to take the extension cord to the neighbor's house so we can get electric that month. I was like, dang it, I want to be a landlord. This guy, he just comes every month and just collects this money. And I was like, I want to collect money too. So I always wanted to be a landlord. So, but part of that, what I didn't realize is like, man, I really feel like I want to own property. I want to be an investor, not to just like play Monopoly and get ahead 4 spaces and collect, you know, Ocean Boulevard or whatever that street is. But I just wanted to be successful. Again, I wanted to achieve that normalcy. So at 21, I declared bankruptcy, which sucked, because at that point I was like, dang it, again, here I am. Life is over. Life is really over for me this time. I done did it now. What am I worth? You know, I got a college degree, and I'm broke, no money in the bank. I'm bankrupt, won't be able to buy a house, at least for X, Y, Z. What am I gonna do? I ain't gonna get in a relationship. They're gonna see me and be like, man, this is a broke bum. Like, he's got nothing going for him. So, and at that time, I was living in the basement. So, God bless that basement, because it made me through hard times. But I was living, you know, from 16 onward, to that 21, I was living in people's basements trying to make it through life. The cool thing is, it didn't really end there for me, right? So what we have a plan of action, or what we think is going to work, you can actually explain all the miracles and the good things that happen to you, because a lot, even in those tragedy, I still had a lot of good things, right? I made it that far. I didn't off myself. You know, at the end, there's always a silver lining. That's where I really challenged God, right? So a lot of times we like challenge people. We call their bluff, right? We're like, hey, you know, if you say who you are, do it. And so at that time, I had heard this thing about fasting, and I was like, I don't know, I've never done a fast. This is going to be like a deeper connection with me and the God that I serve. And so I decided to undergo this 30-day fast, which was really just being a vegetarian. And I didn't like that. I like my veggies, but come on, give me all the good stuff. Like you guys were just eating barbecue ribs. I haven't eaten today. But basically, at that time, after that fast, I was able to be moved out of that house. And I met some really great people that allowed me to rent from their place. Moving forward, just 3 years later, this is not a typical situation. I was able to purchase my first house. Remember I told you I purchased it at 24. And then onward, I've been able to really do some really amazing things. Continue KO T-shirts, continue this marketing business that I had created, and also working with Frank in life coaching. It's just been an honor and a privilege. And so just fast forward till now, I'm still here. At the end of the day, like we can just harp on all the negativity, but one of the last things that I think I said last year, what's that? Yeah, oh yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, I own 3 properties now, so that's really cool. In the last year, I secured a property in Delaware that I'm really excited for. I have tenants there, and then I have another property that's there that I'm hoping towards getting into an Airbnb. So basically what I'm just trying to give you all today as far as nuggets is that, I don't know your situation. I don't know what you've all been through. I don't know what's going on. I can't tell you if it's going to be better tomorrow, but what I can tell you is that eventually that season is going to change and you're going to have your fruitful lifestyle. We go through seasons in life. I think we can all say that we've gone through something, right? But I just want to be an encouragement to you all that to keep pushing, keep thriving, and if nothing else has worked for you, I hope you try this Jesus thing because it's really worked out for me. That's it. That's what I got.
I would just, is this on?
Yeah.
I would just like to add that when Nathan was 13 and 14 and coming away from the abuses, he did have a lot of anger. We would be at church building the sets, and all of a sudden, this time bomb would go off, and he would start beating on me like you can't imagine. I mean,
I scared all the old ladies at church. They thought I was a demon.
Yeah, yeah. There was a demon coming out, I'll tell you. No, you know what's crazy is, I mean, he would beat, and I would have to wind up tying him in a knot and holding him down on the floor for 45 minutes to an hour with his hysteria and this spirit of anger that was just so overwhelming to him. And my family would be there, and they'd be saying, "Dad, are you okay?" I'm like, "Yes, I'm fine, I'm fine, I'm fine." And they didn't understand it, And with him going through these things, even with the murder of his mom, when the police brought him and his siblings to my house, there I have a family, and the police are saying, "Hey, this is gang related," and I'm like, "Why are we at my house then?" It's like, so there was a lot of impact on my family as well, but the thing is, God had spoken over him when he was 12 and 13. These 2 ladies that spoke over him, and when he was praying at that altar that night, the one came to me after she got done praying with him, and she said, "Who is that kid?" And I said, "That's Nathan." And she said, "There's something so different about him. He's going to be reaching thousands." And I said, "I know it. I know that." And then the next night, a totally different lady that didn't know him went up and prayed for him and came back and sought me out and said, "Who was that boy I prayed with?" And I said, "That's Nathan." I'm getting used to this by now, right? And she said, "He is different. I feel a calling on his life. He's going to reach thousands of people." And I just want to say that over the years of KOT Ministries and us doing our thing with that, he has reached thousands. And what is about to happen in his life is totally incredible. He's got a documentary coming out. It's about exposing the truth of the murder of his mom. There's going to be a book following it. And so we go through, he went through these times, all for the purpose of glorifying God. Whether you want to believe that nugget or not, everything we do, we're supposed to do it as unto him. Because he is real and he is in our lives, And so, it just excites me that he has maintained and he's a partner with me in businesses. And He's a mentor to me as much as I am to him, because sometimes he thinks he's smarter than me. And you got to let him think that, guys, with the younger generation, you know. And no, I do learn a lot from him. But, you know, it's just, you know, the donkey missions that we go through in life. So I want to stand up and I want to show you everything I know about this grapefruit, all right? And I'm going to put the mic down because I need both hands, but I can talk loud, okay? All right, so this is a grapefruit, and I want you to look at it, and I want you to tell me, is there any marks on it? No. Is it cut? Are there any holes in that?
Nope.
I just bought it at Giant, $1.99. Prettiest grapefruit they've had at Giant in years, because I do this illusion a lot. Do you see any cuts, any marks?
No.
Okay. So, what do you think this grapefruit represents? Anybody? How about we say it represents the world? All right? This is the world that we live in, and it's good for you sometimes. Sometimes it's sour, though. Sometimes we got to add some sugar to it just to swallow what life deals with us, right? Deals to us. So we're living in this world, and it's got some vitamin to it, but it's got some bitterness to it. So I want to ask a question. Is there anyone brave enough in this room to say, hey, you know what? I'm going through some things right now with this world that throwing a little bitterness at me. Let me see a hand. Anybody? All right, you, ma'am, come up here. You mind helping me? Come on, don't be shy.
She was planning on leaving in 2 minutes.
What? You can't leave till this is over. You know how to dance on a table? We're not doing it anyway. Don't worry about it. Come over to the middle. What's your name?
Tanisha.
Tanisha. Hi, I'm Frank. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
So, Tanisha, this represents what?
The world.
The world. And we have to live in it, don't we?
Yes.
Okay, so we're going to put this over here. I have a deck of cards here. What do you think the cards represent?
I would say the trials that kind of throw at us.
Yeah, well, better than that. How about the cards represent us? The people of the world, okay? So, I want you to pick a card out, okay, which is going to represent you.
Okay.
All right, so here we go. Just pick any card you want. Wait a minute, though. I am a master illusionist, so I could literally make you pick any card I want you to pick. Did you know that? So it wouldn't be fair me just doing this and letting her pick a card, because it's called a force. So I could force her to take it. So instead I'm going to riffle the cards. Okay. And you just stick your finger in there, all right? Wherever you want me to stop.
Stop.
Okay, stick your finger in there. She missed it. Let's do it again. Ready? Just tell me. Now, same thing. I could make you stop at the card I want you to pick. So I think the only fair way of doing it is I'm going to put the deck down. And I want you to cut that deck. Just pick some cards up and put them right there and stop. You can cut it anywhere you want. Is that where you want it? Okay, so you just cut the cards to anywhere you want. I had nothing to do with that, right?
Right.
I didn't touch them when you did that, right? All I did was lift up what you cut.
Yes.
So let's see where you went to, okay? She went to the Jack of Hearts. So, we have the Jack of Hearts. We're going to put these over here. So, this is you. Doesn't look a thing like you, does it? But this is you. And here we are in this world, right? And have you ever had it up and down in this world?
Definitely.
Yeah, man, I know. Sometimes they hurt, right? Sometimes they kind of like just tear at you, right? So what I want you to do is, I want you to take this card and hold it out in front, and I want you to tear it in half, okay? So everybody can see. All the way through. Good, put them together. Nope, put on top of one another. There you go, yep, put them together, stack them. There you go. Now, I need 8 guys that aren't afraid of anything, that has something to drink in front of them. So if you want to volunteer, sit down. Great, look at all these volunteers. It's amazing. Don't make me come pick you out. Look on your table. If you got a drink, I want you to just grab your drink and come up here. 8 of you. Come on, don't be shy. What's going to happen is, okay, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Come on, Dave. So, guys, if you could stand on that side. just on the sidelines. What you're going to do is, you're going to help me finish this, okay? So, here we are. Hold it like that now. Life just tore at us, and it hurts, right? I want you to take the center of that card, just like you did the first time, and tear it down again. Good. Now put them together. Man, life can stink sometimes. This world, we're trying to make it so nice and so pretty and so fun, and yet it can really dig at us. It can throw us a curveball. It can make the life bitter and sour. Turn them one more time. With everything you got, can you tear them in half again? Good. All right, let me have them. So we have these cards here. Take a piece. Hold that. Don't look at it. All right, guys, what I need you to do is man up. You're going to eat one piece of this card. You're going to swallow it. Listen, you've got to swallow it. Nothing will happen. Only one time did a guy get worms from it, okay? No, seriously. No, look, I'm serious. It's perfectly safe. They're cards. They're brand new. I just bought the pack. All right, now, if you're going to stand there and say, I can't do it, I'd rather you go sit down, because I need you to be totally honest to say you're going to chew this card up and swallow it. Are you going to do it? Stand before God and do it? All right, grab a piece. You can sit down. I'll eat your piece if you don't want to. But don't you dare cheat on me. You need to swallow this card. I mean it, okay? You know who's watching you, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Give me a little piece.
Oh, he went for the little piece. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah, I see another little piece.
Man, those are like brave men. Dave, grab the big piece. You have a big appetite.
All right, there you go.
There you go. How about you? Now, don't do anything yet. Oh man, I take. Look, I'll be fair.
Second roll.
No, here, look. Take that piece and that piece. Let me get the mic back here. Since this one went on the floor, I'm going to man up. Watch. Guys.
Oh, man, twice.
Man. Take your card. Eat it. Really? Now they're waxed, okay? So they're hard to chew. Everybody, this is not an easy feat. This is hard to do. But I need you to chew it up. Get it real speedy. That's the only way we're got to get real speedy. You can drink a little bit to wet it up. It's Marine Corps cardboard. But keep chewing. I'm going to check your mouth, so don't think you're going to get over on me, okay? Let me know when you swallow it. Look, I'm going to swallow mine. It's no different than a piece of gum. Look. Gone, okay? Is it gone?
Now it is.
Is it gone? Is it gone? I thought I was going to have to do the Heimlich. Oh, my word. Is it gone?
Out of there.
Good. Is it gone? Okay, it has nothing to do with the trick. I just wanted to get rid of the card. No, I'm kidding.
That's your free lunch.
Yeah, that's your free lunch. Mine's kind of stuck in my throat.
On the waiver before you came
So, if you believe in God, as I do, I have to believe in the other side. I have to believe in the devil. He's always throwing monkey wrenches. He doesn't want to see us succeed. He really doesn't. You know, let me tell you something about Jesus. The last thing Jesus wants to do is make you uncomfortable. He is so dignified. He gives integrity to us. He breathes it in us. Okay? And so many people that I've come across in life say, I don't want that Jesus stuff. And you know what I find? They don't want it because they think they got to change. God's not about that. Jesus Christ doesn't care who you are, where you are, what you are, why you are. He cares about one thing, and that's the heart. He just wants to be our best friend and walk with us. That's the bottom line. He just wants to walk with us. You can't live in this creation and not think there's not someone behind it.
Amen.
Right?
Amen.
So he wants to walk with us and be our best friend. If you had a best friend, you would probably talk to them a lot. Right? Yeah. You know, and that's how it is with me and Jesus. I talk with him a lot. There's nothing I can't do that I can't go to him about.
Amen. Thank you.
All right? And the nice thing is the dignity. I don't walk perfect. Do any of you walk perfect, by the way? He doesn't care about that as much as he cares about our heart and just loving him. He wants to do things for us because he loves us that much. So here we're in this world and we get distracted and the devil comes out and what? And tears us up, right?
Yes.
Tears us in pieces, shreds our life and destroys us. He wants to get rid of us. You guys can sit down. But there's someone bigger than the devil. See, Jesus Christ, he didn't come to destroy. He came to restore. And when he moves mightily. And I know that no matter what challenge I go through in life, I don't have to fear, I don't have to be defeated. Because I know he's going to take every piece and put it back together. Imagine him coming into this world and saying, hey Frank, I'm going to rescue you. Hey Frank, I'm going to put every piece of your life back together in an unimaginable way that only I can do. And I'm going to do it because I love you. I'm going to do it because you are that important to me. I'm going to do it 100% complete. So every piece of your life fits perfectly back together. Now, you are holding a piece of this card, aren't you?
Yes.
I want you to show me that that piece matches that card 100% perfectly, because we ate the rest of it. And is that a perfect match?
That is amazing. How did you do that?
That is a perfect match because that's how Jesus works. He's not imperfect, man. He just wants to say, hey, I'm going to pour out into you and I'm going to put it all together. If you would just believe me and have faith, I'll show you. And you know the best part about it? He doesn't ask for nothing in return. Thanks for your help.
Thank you.
So, I want to offer you something today. All right? And it's not a force. I'm not forcing a card. I'm not forcing a person on you. I want to offer you a gift. And it's so simple. I don't know if everybody here knows Jesus as their Lord and Savior. I don't know if your walk is as strong as you want it to be or it should be. I don't know. I just want you to know that my best friend in life that gets me through every day, his name is Jesus Christ, and he's free. It's a free gift, you know, and what I did with this card, he does with my life. He'll do with your life. And all he's saying is, hey, just know me. Just give me a chance to prove myself to you. You probably have been through church hurt and situations where you don't even want to think about me. But give me a chance one-on-one with you, because if you invite me in one-on-one, I'm going to prove myself to you. And he'll never fail you. So I just want to pray with us today. I'm not going to do anything embarrassing to anybody. I just want to pray with us today. And if you would be so kind just to bow your heads. And I'm going to ask you something. I don't know where you are. And I'm not even going to ask you to raise your hand today. I'm just going to say this. If you want to accept a relationship with Jesus Christ as your Savior, to reap the benefits of salvation and the benefits of walking through life with Him, I want you to just say it in your heart, Lord, I want to. If your walk with Him isn't as strong as it should be, or you need a boost, I want you to say that, Lord, I need you more. I need a boost. Because I guarantee you, there's so much evidence that Jesus Christ is real. I just got back from Israel. The evidence is overwhelming. I touched the tomb of Jesus. I saw the house of Peter. I saw the birthplace of Mary. I saw the evidence. I felt His presence in the Garden of Gethsemane. There's no doubt. There is no doubt. So with your heads bowed, I just want to say a simple prayer. And if you want to repeat this with me, please just speak it. Father God, I just thank you for your truth, for your word, for your direction today, for the way you minister to your people. I want you to come into my life or be stronger in my life. Help me to move closer to you, God, not further away. Help me to have a relationship with you that I never had before. Give me the strength to love you more than I ever have. Be governor and Lord of my life. I accept you. Change my heart. I thank you for the gift of salvation. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. Hey guys.